Crix-9 adjusted his optical sensors for the fourth time in 10 minutes, watching the human female through the reinforced viewing panel. Dr. Maya Torres sat perfectly still in the interrogation chamber, her dark eyes focused on some invisible point beyond the metal walls. The Galactic Council's most advanced mind-reading equipment hummed quietly in the background, producing absolutely nothing useful. "Status report," Commander Veltprime's voice crackled through the intercom, his tone carrying the weight of someone who had run out of patience 3 solar cycles ago. "The human remains uncooperative," Crix-9 replied, his mandibles clicking with frustration. "Our psychic probes register complete silence. It's as if her mind doesn't exist." Through the speakers, Veltprime's bitter laugh echoed. "Doesn't exist?" She destroyed an entire hegemony battle station with nothing but a maintenance tool and 30 seconds of access to their central computer. I'd say her mind exists quite effectively. Crix-9 watched Dr. Torres blink slowly, the only sign she was even alive. For 3 days, she had maintained this maddening stillness. No pacing, no fidgeting, no desperate pleas for release that characterized every other species they had ever captured. Just sitting, like she was waiting for something. "Perhaps we should try the neural disruptor again," suggested tech specialist Corm, his purple tentacles writhing with nervous energy. "We tried that yesterday," Crix-9 snapped, "and the day before. The device registered her brain activity as completely normal, but she acted like nothing happened. She even thanked us for the light show." Commander Veltprime's voice turned dangerous. "What about enhanced interrogation protocols?" "Sir, with respect, we've exhausted our options. Physical pain seems to amuse her. Psychological pressure makes her laugh. Yesterday, when we showed her footage of her home planet under orbital bombardment, she critiqued our targeting algorithms." The silence that followed stretched uncomfortably long. Crix-9 knew the commander was weighing their rapidly dwindling options. The human had been captured during the raid on Xerion Station, where she had somehow infiltrated the most secure military installation in the sector, and turned their own weapons against them. The official reports claimed equipment malfunction, but everyone knew better. "There's something else, sir," Crix-9 added reluctantly. "The other prisoners, they're starting to talk about her." "What do you mean?" "The Vraxian war slaves refuse to eat unless she's fed first. The captured Zephyrian pilots keep asking if the small goddess is well. Even the hegemony officers we're holding seem nervous. They keep looking toward her cell block." Dr. Torres suddenly tilted her head slightly, as if listening to something. Crix-9 felt his exoskeleton tingle with unease. "Sir, I think she can hear us." "Impossible. The chamber is completely isolated." But even as Veltprime spoke, Dr. Torres smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. It was the kind of smile that suggested she knew something they didn't, and that something was going to ruin their day spectacularly. "Bring me a chair," the commander's voice cut through Crix-9's thoughts. "Sir?" "You heard me. A chair. Metal. Heavy. I'm going to break her concentration." Crix-9 hesitated. "Commander, the containment protocols specifically state..." "The protocols have failed. 3 days of our most advanced techniques, and she's made us look like younglings playing with toys. Bring me the chair, or I'll have you transferred to waste reclamation duty." Within minutes, 2 security drones wheeled in a standard-issue metal chair. Commander Veltprime examined it with the critical eye of someone planning violence. The chair was certainly heavy enough, standard hegemony construction, with reinforced polymer legs and a solid durasteel frame. "Open the chamber," he ordered. "Sir, That's highly irregular. Open it." The containment field flickered and died. Dr. Torres didn't move, didn't even acknowledge that her prison had just become accessible. She continued staring at that same invisible point, completely relaxed. Commander Velt Prime hefted the chair with both of his primary arms, his muscular frame straining slightly under the weight. "Let's see how focused you are when this connects with your soft little skull." He drew back, every muscle coiled for maximum impact. The chair sailed through the air in a perfect arc, spinning end over end toward the human's unprotected head. What happened next would be debated in military academies for generations. Dr. Torres moved with fluid precision, rising from her seated position and rotating 90 degrees. The chair, still spinning, passed through the exact space where her head had been. But instead of crashing to the floor, it landed perfectly beneath her as she settled back down. She was now sitting in the chair Commander Velt Prime had thrown at her. The silence that followed could have powered a small starship. "Did she just—" Crix 9's voice failed him. "Catch a chair by sitting in it?" Dr. Torres spoke for the first time in 3 days, her voice carrying a distinctly amused tone. "Yeah, I do that sometimes. Physics can be surprisingly cooperative when you know how to ask nicely." Commander Velt Prime's mandibles worked soundlessly. His sophisticated military mind, trained over decades of combat and strategy, simply couldn't process what he had witnessed. "How?" he finally managed. Dr. Torres leaned back in her new chair, testing its comfort. "Well, you threw it with enough force and at the right angle that I could calculate its trajectory. Basic mechanics, really. The tricky part was timing the rotation so the seat would be in the correct position when I sat down. Gravity did most of the work." "That's impossible." "Is it?" She tilted her head, genuinely curious. "Your species can fly through space at faster-than-light speeds, manipulate matter at the molecular level, and create artificial gravity fields. But you think catching furniture is impossible?" Crix 9 found his voice. "The calculations alone would require—" "About 2 seconds of mental math," Dr. Torres interrupted. "Maybe 3 if you account for air resistance. Though to be fair, your atmospheric processors maintain pretty consistent density, so that wasn't really a factor." The commander's optical sensors darkened to dangerous red. "You're claiming you performed complex ballistic calculations in your head while the chair was in flight?" "I'm claiming I caught your chair by sitting in it. The math was just the boring part." She paused, considering. "Though I have to say, your throwing form needs work. Too much shoulder, not enough hip rotation. Very inefficient." The insult hit like a plasma bolt. Commander Velt Prime had been a champion gladiator before his military career, renowned throughout the sector for his physical prowess. To be critiqued by a soft, small human was intolerable. "You want to see efficient?" he snarled, reaching for his sidearm. "Whoa there, big guy." Dr. Torres held up one hand. "Before you do something we'll both regret, maybe you should ask yourself why I let you capture me." The words stopped Velt Prime cold. "Let us?" 3 days ago, when your forces raided Zerion Station, I had 17 different escape routes mapped out. I could have been halfway to the neutral zone before your ships cleared the atmosphere." She examined her fingernails with infuriating casualness. "Instead, I'm here, chatting with you, lovely folks." "You're lying." "Am I? How do you think I got into Zerion Station in the first place? It's supposed to be impregnable, right? Your best engineers designed those defenses. Your most elite troops guard it. Your most advanced AI systems monitor every molecule that approaches." She looked directly at Commander Velt Prime, and for the first time, He saw something terrifying in her expression. Not anger or fear or desperation. Confidence. Pure, unshakable confidence. "I walked through your front door," she continued. "Literally. I strolled up to the main checkpoint, handed the guard my identification, and asked for directions to the central computer core. He even wished me a pleasant day." Impossible! Our security protocols are designed to keep out enemies. I wasn't an enemy when I arrived. I was Dr. Maya Torres, consulting engineer, hired by your own defense ministry to perform routine maintenance on your quantum processors. She smiled again, and this time it was definitely not pleasant. Amazing what a little paperwork can accomplish. Crix 9 felt his breathing apparatus constrict. The work orders, they were legitimate? Oh, completely legitimate. Filed through proper channels, approved by the appropriate committees, signed by all the necessary officials. Her smile widened. Of course, those officials didn't realize they were signing them. Amazing what you can accomplish with a few carefully placed suggestions and some basic psychology. Psychology? Your people are remarkably predictable. Show them a form that looks official, present it at the right time in the right context, and they'll approve almost anything, especially if you make them feel important while they're doing it. She shrugged. I may have also mentioned that the maintenance was personally requested by Fleet Admiral Zorth 7. Nobody wants to be the low-level bureaucrat who delayed the Admiral's priority project. Commander Velt Prime's rage was building to dangerous levels. You manipulated our entire security apparatus? I prefer optimized. Your security apparatus was already there, doing its job perfectly. I just made sure its job included letting me pass. She stood up, stretching casually. Though I have to say, your Admiral's reputation for creative punishment really helped. People were falling over themselves to expedite my paperwork. The commander's hand moved toward his weapon again. Dr. Torres noticed immediately. I wouldn't do that if I were you. And why not? Because the moment you draw that weapon, 17 different contingency plans activate simultaneously. And trust me, you don't want to find out what they involve. Her voice remained conversational, but something in her tone made every instinct Velt Prime possessed scream danger. You're bluffing. Am I? Let me ask you something, Commander. In the 3 days I've been here, have you wondered why your communications with High Command have been experiencing those mysterious delays? Or why your long-range sensors keep reporting false readings in sectors 7 through 12? The blood in Velt Prime's veins turned to ice. What have you done? Nothing yet, but I've made preparations. Think of them as insurance policies. Very comprehensive insurance policies. She walked toward the viewing window, seemingly oblivious to the dozen weapon systems now tracking her movement. You see, Commander, the thing about humans is that we're really good at thinking ahead. While your people were busy building impressive warships and developing powerful weapons, we were learning how systems work. All systems, political systems, economic systems, technological systems, social systems. She pressed her palm against the reinforced transparent aluminum. And once you understand how a system works, breaking it becomes surprisingly easy. The Galactic Council will never. The Galactic Council is currently dealing with a series of unfortunate technical difficulties. Their quantum communication network has developed some fascinating glitches. Trade routes are experiencing unusual gravitational anomalies. Several member worlds are reporting computer viruses that seem to evolve faster than they can be eliminated. She turned back to face him, and Crix-9 realized with mounting horror that she was enjoying this. Of course, these are all completely unrelated incidents. Random system failures, equipment malfunctions, the kind of chaos that naturally occurs when you're trying to manage a government spanning thousands of worlds and dozens of species. Her expression became mockingly sympathetic. Must be very stressful for the leadership. Commander Velt Prime was beginning to understand the scope of what he was dealing with. You're talking about coordinated sabotage on a galactic scale. I'm talking about the natural consequences of building a civilization on systems you don't fully understand. She returned to her chair, settling in comfortably. Your people are excellent engineers, Commander. Your technology is impressive. But you think like conquerors, not like architects. And humans think like architects? Humans think like humans. We're very good at finding weaknesses in things that look strong. We're excellent at turning enemies into tools. And we're absolutely fantastic at making other people's problems into our opportunities. The interrogation chamber's environmental systems chose that moment to malfunction, filling the air with an unpleasant chemical odor. Dr. Torres waved her hand dismissively. Oh, and we're pretty decent at timing dramatic moments, too. The smell intensified, and Crix-9 realized it was coming from the air recycling system. Commander, we should evacuate. Relax, Dr. Torres interrupted. It's just a mild irritant. Should clear up in a few minutes, though you might want to have your maintenance crew check the atmospheric processors. They seem to be developing some personality quirks. Commander Velt Prime's tactical mind was finally beginning to catch up with the situation. Every system malfunction, every technical difficulty has been carefully orchestrated over the past several months by a species you dismissed as primitive. She stood up again, brushing imaginary dust from her clothing. The thing is, Commander, we've been watching you, learning about you, understanding how your society works, how your technology functions, how your leadership makes decisions. Impossible. We would have detected. Would you? How many human refugees have you processed in the past year? How many human traders have visited your worlds? How many human technical consultants have you hired for routine maintenance jobs? The color drained from Velt Prime's exoskeleton. You're talking about a spy network spanning the entire hegemony. I'm talking about humans being really good at making friends and influencing people. Amazing what you can accomplish when nobody considers you a threat. She walked to the chamber door, which should have been secured by multiple independent locking systems. It opened with a soft whisper. The beautiful thing about underestimating humans, she continued, stepping into the corridor, is that we're used to it. We've built our entire survival strategy around being underestimated by predators, by the environment, by each other, and now by you. Alarms began sounding throughout the facility. Not the sharp, urgent wail of a security breach, but the deeper, more ominous tone that indicated systematic failure. What's happening? Crix-9 demanded. Dr. Torres consulted a device that definitely hadn't been on her person during the initial search. Oh, that would be Phase 2 beginning, right on schedule. She looked genuinely pleased. You know, I have to hand it to your people. Your adherence to routine made the timing calculations much easier. Phase 2 of what? Of making friends, obviously. She started walking down the corridor, moving with the confidence of someone who knew exactly where she was going. See, the thing about being held prisoner is that it gives you lots of time to talk to your fellow inmates, and your fellow inmates are very unhappy with their current accommodations. The implications hit Commander Velt Prime like a meteor strike. The other prisoners. are about to discover that their cell doors have developed unfortunate technical malfunctions, along with the armory locks, the communications array, and the gravity generators in the guard quarters. She paused at a junction, consulting her device again. Oh, and the waste management systems. That one's just for fun. You can't possibly coordinate a prison break from inside a secured cell. Can't I? Commander, I've spent 3 days sitting quietly while your people tried to break into my mind. Did you really think I was just meditating? She tapped the side of her head. Turns out, human brains are quite good at multitasking. While you were trying to read my thoughts, I was reading your systems. The facility shuddered as something exploded in the distance. Emergency lighting flickered on, bathing everything in ominous red. And there goes the main power coupling, Dr. Torres observed cheerfully. Those Vraxian war slaves really know their way around demolitions. Probably comes from all that forced labor in your mining operations. She continued walking, and Crix 9 realized with growing panic that she was heading toward the command center. Stop! Commander Velt Prime finally drew his weapon, the high-energy plasma rifle charging with a threatening whine. Dr. Torres paused, turning to face him with an expression of mild interest. You know, Commander, that's exactly what I was hoping you'd do. The weapon fired, a brilliant beam of concentrated energy that should have vaporized everything in its path. Instead, it struck some kind of energy barrier that materialized just in front of Dr. Torres, the plasma dispersing harmlessly in all directions. Personal shield generator, she explained helpfully. Amazing what you can build with spare parts from your own maintenance supplies. Though I have to thank whoever designed your plasma rifles. The power cell configuration made the shield harmonics much easier to calculate. How many contingencies did you prepare? Velt Prime asked, his voice hollow with defeat. All of them, Dr. Torres replied simply. Commander, the first rule of human survival is that there's always another option. The second rule is that you prepare for the options you haven't thought of yet. She resumed walking, and this time neither Crix 9 nor Commander Velt Prime tried to stop her. Behind them, the sounds of systematic chaos grew louder as the facility's various systems continued their orchestrated failure. You know what the really beautiful part is? Dr. Torres called over her shoulder. By the time your reinforcements arrive, there won't be a facility left to reinforce, and every piece of evidence that could prove what happened here will have been thoroughly, irretrievably destroyed. The security recordings will show a series of unfortunate technical malfunctions that led to a tragic prison break. No sabotage, no coordination, no human involvement beyond being an innocent victim of circumstances. She paused at the command center door, which opened obligingly. After all, how could one small human, locked in a secured cell under constant surveillance, possibly orchestrate something so complex? As she disappeared into the command center, Commander Velt Prime realized he was witnessing something that would fundamentally change how the galaxy viewed humanity. The small, weak species they had dismissed as barely sentient had just demonstrated capabilities that bordered on precognitive. The last thing he heard before the facility's communication systems went permanently offline was Dr. Torres's voice over the intercom, cheerfully announcing, "Attention all personnel. This is your new acting administrator speaking. Please proceed to your nearest exit in an orderly fashion. Thank you for your cooperation, and have a pleasant day." Crix 9 looked at his commander, seeing his own shock reflected in the older warrior's expression. "Sir," he whispered, "what exactly are we dealing with?" Commander Velt Prime watched smoke pour from the ventilation systems as explosions echoed through the corridors. "I think," he said slowly, We just met the future. 6 months later, Fleet Admiral Zorth 7 stood in the ruins of what had once been the hegemony's most secure detention facility. The twisted metal-infused ceramics told a story of systematic destruction that still defied explanation. His 4 eyes scanned the debris field, while his chief intelligence officer, Nurx 4, provided yet another inadequate briefing. "The investigation teams have confirmed our worst fears, Admiral," Nurx 4 reported, his voice carrying the weight of impending doom. "This wasn't random chaos. Every system failure was precisely timed to create maximum disruption with minimal actual damage to the prison population." "Minimal damage?" Admiral Zorth 7's voice cracked like breaking stone. 300 prisoners escaped. Our most valuable intelligence assets gone." "Yes, sir. But here's the disturbing part. Not a single prisoner was killed during the breakout. Not one guard suffered permanent injury. Even the facility commander and his staff were found safely evacuated to the outer perimeter." Nurx 4 consulted his data tablet with trembling appendages. "Sir, someone orchestrated the complete destruction of our most secure facility while ensuring 0 casualties." The Admiral's primary brain processed this information while his secondary brain handled the growing panic. "Show me the surveillance footage again." The holographic display materialized between them, showing Dr. Maya Torres walking calmly through corridor after corridor as chaos erupted around her. Emergency systems failed in perfect sequence, creating safe passage routes while sealing off dangerous areas. Explosions occurred with surgical precision, eliminating security checkpoints without harming nearby personnel. "Pause it there," Admiral Zorth 7 commanded. The image froze on Dr. Torres, standing in the command center, her fingers dancing across control panels with impossible familiarity. Behind her, displays showed facility schematics, updating in real time as she rewrote fundamental system protocols. "How long did our intelligence services estimate it would take a team of expert engineers to understand our command architecture?" the Admiral asked. "Minimum 18 months of dedicated study, sir, with access to classified technical manuals and direct tutoring from the original designers." She did it in 3 days, while locked in an isolation cell, under constant surveillance. The Admiral's mandibles clicked with frustrated rage. "Tell me about the other incidents." Nurx 4's posture slumped further. 17 similar events across the sector in the past 6 months, each one more sophisticated than the last. Prison breaks, data thefts, infrastructure sabotage, supply chain disruptions, all with the same signature: impossibly precise execution with 0 casualties. And in every case, humans were involved? "Not directly, sir. That's what makes it so insidious. Humans appear as consultants, refugees, traders, maintenance workers. They integrate into our society, gain our trust, then vanish just before everything falls apart." Admiral Zorth 7 walked to the viewing portal, staring out at the massive construction project beyond. Emergency shipyards worked frantically to replace vessels lost to system malfunctions and navigational errors. Each loss appeared accidental, but the pattern was unmistakable. "What's the current estimate of our fleet strength reduction?" 37%, sir. But that's not the worst part." Nurx 4's voice dropped to a whisper. "Our manufacturing capacity is down 60%. Our supply lines are operating at 40% efficiency. And our communication network experiences random failures that prevent effective coordination between fleet groups. Random failures that happen to occur whenever we're planning major operations against human settlements?" "Yes, sir." The Admiral's 4 eyes focused on a disturbing sight. human vessels moving freely through what should have been restricted hegemony space. Not warships, but simple cargo haulers and passenger transports. They transmitted proper identification codes, filed appropriate flight plans, and conducted legitimate business. Yet somehow, their presence always coincided with increased system failures. NERX 4, I want you to answer one question honestly. Do you believe we're still winning this war? The intelligence officer hesitated, his loyalty warring with his professional assessment. Sir, I'm not sure we're fighting a war at all. Explain. Wars involve opposing armies, competing strategies, territorial disputes. What we're experiencing is more like systematic obsolescence. The humans aren't trying to defeat us militarily. They're making our military irrelevant. Before Admiral Zorth 7 could respond, his personal communicator chirped with an incoming priority message. The encryption signature identified it as coming from the Galactic Council's emergency session chambers. Admiral, High Chancellor Vorth Prime's voice carried barely controlled panic. Report to the Council chambers immediately. We have a situation. The fastest transport available was a human-built diplomatic shuttle, a fact that would have been ironic if it wasn't so terrifying. As they approached the Council station, Admiral Zorth 7 noticed something that made his blood crystallize. Dozens of human vessels in perfect formation, surrounding the massive governmental complex. Are they attacking? NERX 4 asked. No, the Admiral replied grimly. They're protecting it. The Council chambers buzzed with confused conversation in 17 different languages. Representatives from every major species clustered in anxious groups, their attention focused on the central holographic display. Admiral Zorth 7 took his designated seat just as High Chancellor Vorth Prime called for order. Fellow Council members, we face an unprecedented situation. 6 hours ago, long-range sensors detected a massive fleet approaching from the galactic rim. Initial analysis suggests devourer technology. The chamber erupted in panicked chittering and clicking. The devourers were legend, a species of mechanical entities that consumed entire star systems to fuel their expansion. They had been dormant for millennia, but their return had always been considered inevitable. The approaching fleet consists of approximately 50,000 vessels, the Chancellor continued. Our combined military forces number less than 12,000. Furthermore, recent system failures have reduced our operational readiness to critical levels. Admiral Zorth 7 felt his career ending in real time. Every strategic decision, every resource allocation, every tactical doctrine had been rendered meaningless by 6 months of human interference. However, the Chancellor's tone shifted. We have received an unprecedented offer of assistance. The holographic display changed, showing a single human woman standing in what appeared to be a spacecraft's command center. Admiral Zorth 7 recognized her immediately. Dr. Maya Torres, looking remarkably composed for someone who should have been in maximum security detention. Greetings, Galactic Council, Dr. Torres began, her voice carrying across the chamber with crystal clarity. I apologize for the unconventional communication method, but your standard diplomatic channels have been experiencing those troublesome technical difficulties. Nervous laughter rippled through the assembly. Every representative present had experienced similar technical difficulties whenever they attempted to coordinate responses to human activities. I'm contacting you today to discuss a mutually beneficial arrangement. As you've probably noticed, your current military infrastructure is somewhat compromised. Meanwhile, humanity has developed certain capabilities that might prove useful in addressing your devourer problem. The display shifted to show tactical analyses of the approaching fleet. The level of detail was staggering, including complete technological specifications, probable strategic intentions, and recommended countermeasures. "How did they obtain this intelligence?" whispered the Zephyrian representative. Dr. Torres seemed to hear the question despite the impossible distance. "We've been monitoring Devourer communications for the past several decades. Amazing what you can accomplish when you're not constrained by assumptions about what's impossible." She gestured, and the display showed a three-dimensional battle plan of breathtaking complexity. Human vessels moved in coordinated patterns that exploited every weakness in Devourer technology, while maximizing the effectiveness of Galactic Council forces. The plan you're seeing represents humanity's proposed contribution to the defense effort. Our ships will handle technological disruption and tactical coordination, while your forces provide the primary combat capability. She paused, allowing the implications to sink in. Of course, this level of cooperation would require certain adjustments to our current relationship. High Chancellor Vorth Prime found his voice. "What kind of adjustments?" "Nothing unreasonable. Formal recognition of human sovereignty over our current territories. Cessation of hostile actions against human civilians and infrastructure. And perhaps most importantly, a seat on this council with full voting rights." The chamber exploded in outraged protests. The idea of granting council membership to a species they had considered barely sentient was unthinkable. Yet, as Admiral Zorth 7 watched the tactical projections, he realized humanity wasn't asking for membership. They were demonstrating that they had already earned it. "The alternative," Dr. Torres continued calmly, "is that you face the Devourers with your current resources, which, based on our analysis, gives you approximately a 12% chance of survival." "And with human assistance?" the Chancellor asked. 87%. Though I should mention, those odds improve significantly if you stop trying to sabotage your own defensive preparations. Admiral Zorth 7 leaned forward. "What do you mean?" "Oh, Admiral Zorth 7, I was hoping you'd ask." Dr. Torres smiled, and the expression sent chills through every council member. "You see, for the past 6 months, you've been attributing various system failures to human sabotage, which is partially correct. We have been manipulating your infrastructure." The admission sent shock waves through the assembly. Here was confirmation of what they had suspected but couldn't prove. "However, you've misunderstood our objectives. We weren't trying to weaken you. We were trying to save you from yourselves." "Explain," the Chancellor demanded. "Your military doctrine is based on overwhelming force and technological superiority. Excellent strategies when fighting conventional enemies. Completely useless against Devourers." The display showed comparative analyses of traditional Galactic Council tactics versus Devourer adaptive capabilities. Every standard approach you might have tried would have resulted in total defeat within 72 hours. "So you crippled our defenses to protect us?" "We redirected your resources toward approaches that might actually work. Those system failures you've been experiencing, they forced you to develop more flexible logistics networks. The communication disruptions made you practice operating with degraded information systems. The manufacturing problems pushed you toward modular, adaptable designs. The implications were staggering. Every frustrating setback, every maddening technical problem, had been preparation for this moment. You've been training us, Admiral Zorth 7 realized. We've been trying to. With mixed success, I have to admit. Your people are remarkably resistant to changing established procedures. She gestured again, and the display showed detailed readiness assessments for every Council military unit. But you've made enough progress that combined operations are now feasible. High Chancellor Vorth Prime struggled to process what he was hearing. You're telling us that humanity has spent months orchestrating galaxy-wide infrastructure problems as a training exercise? Not just a training exercise, a compatibility upgrade. Your technology and ours operate on fundamentally different principles. Direct integration would have been impossible without extensive modifications to both systems. Dr. Torres looked directly at the Admiral. Tell me, have you noticed any improvements in your adaptive response protocols lately? Admiral Zorth 7 thought about recent exercises, the surprising effectiveness of improvised solutions, the way his crews had learned to work around system limitations. Yes, actually. Good. That means the integration process is working. Your people are learning to think more, flexibly. And in return, humans have learned to work within our command structures? Oh, we learned that months ago. Humans are very good at understanding hierarchical systems. We've had people integrated into your organizations at every level for quite some time. The Vraxian representative spoke up, his voice tight with suspicion. How deeply integrated? Deep enough to ensure effective coordination when the time comes? Don't worry, nobody's been replaced or mind-controlled. We just recruited volunteers from species that were already part of your society. Recruited them how? By offering them a chance to save their homes and families from an extinction-level threat. Amazing how motivating that can be. Admiral Zorth 7 felt the last pieces of the puzzle clicking into place. The escaped prisoners from the detention facility. They weren't random criminals. Correct. They were carefully selected individuals with specific skill sets, chosen for their ability to contribute to the defense effort. The prison break was actually a recruitment drive. You turned our own detention system into a hiring process? We prefer to think of it as aggressive headhunting, though I admit the execution was a bit theatrical. Dr. Torres looked genuinely apologetic. I may have gotten carried away with the chair thing, but you have to admit, it was memorable. Despite everything, Admiral Zorth 7 found himself laughing. The sheer audacity of using a maximum security facility as a talent acquisition center was so absurd it transcended outrage and became impressive. So, what happens now? High Chancellor Vorth Prime asked. Now you vote. Humanity joins the Galactic Council as a full member. We combine our forces and defend our shared civilization against the Devourers. Or you maintain your current policies, we return to our own territories, and you face the approaching fleet alone. The silence stretched for long minutes as each representative considered the choice. Finally, the hegemony delegate spoke. The human proposal has merit, but we need guarantees. How do we know you won't use this partnership to further undermine our sovereignty? Dr. Torres's expression became serious. Because in about 60 hours, the Devourers will arrive in this system. After that, there won't be any sovereignty left to undermine unless we work together. She gestured, and the display showed real-time tracking data of the approaching fleet. The massive formations moved with mechanical precision, already beginning to deploy harvesting equipment as they approached the outer planets. The beautiful thing about facing extinction, Dr. Torres continued, is that it puts everything else into perspective. Humans have no interest in ruling the galaxy. We're much too busy exploring it, understanding it, and trying to keep it from being devoured by mechanical nightmares. The vote, when it came, was unanimous. Not because every representative trusted humanity, but because the alternative was non-existence. As the council session ended and battle preparations began, Admiral Zorth 7 found himself working alongside the same human who had orchestrated his greatest professional humiliation. Dr. Torres treated him with professional respect, offering tactical insights and strategic recommendations as if the past 6 months had been a minor misunderstanding. "I have to ask," he said during a brief planning break, "could you really have escaped from the detention facility whenever you wanted?" "Of course not," she replied cheerfully. "That would have been stupid and wasteful. I needed to be captured so I could understand your security systems, meet the right people, and set up the infrastructure modifications. Escaping early would have ruined everything." "So you planned the entire sequence from the beginning?" "I planned 17 different sequences, depending on how you responded to various stimuli. The chair thing was from plan number 4. Plan number 1 involved a lot more explosions." Admiral Zorth 7 shuddered to think what plan number 1 would have looked like. "Don't worry, Doctor," Torres added, reading his expression. "We're past the point where deception is necessary. From here on, it's straight cooperation. Humans work much better as allies than as enemies." As if to prove her point, the tactical displays updated with real-time coordination data from human vessels throughout the sector. Every ship, every crew, every resource was being integrated into a defensive network of stunning complexity and effectiveness. "Dr. Torres," Admiral Zorth 7 said, watching the displays with professional admiration, "exactly how long have humans been preparing for this moment?" She smiled, and for the first time, it was entirely genuine. "Since we first looked up at the stars and wondered what was out there. Humans have always known that the universe is full of things bigger and more dangerous than we are. We just decided that wasn't going to stop us from being part of it." The final battle against the Devourers would be recorded in galactic history as humanity's formal introduction to interstellar civilization. But for those who lived through it, the real revelation had come months earlier, in a detention facility interrogation chamber, when a small human woman caught a chair by sitting in it and changed the galaxy's understanding of what was possible. The universe, it turned out, was much more interesting when humans were part of it,